All righty, we'll call this meeting to order. It looks like we do have a quorum, so we will progress with our business. First item on the list here is to approve the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'm not. Are we able to approve the agenda since we weren't here for the last meeting?
This is approving the tonight's agenda.
Oh, tonight. Oh, perfect. I will motion to approve the agenda tonight.
And can we get a second?
Second.
Perfect. All right, all those who approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those who disapprove say nay. And it carries. All right. Next on our agenda here, we have the public comment section. So if we will open up the floor to an individual. Now, I believe we can see if someone raises their hand on Zoom. So if you have a comment you'd like to make, please feel free to do the raising hand motion, and we can get you on record here. And when you, if you are to speak, please state your name and your address. Not seeing any hands at this time.
Nate, if I could interrupt for 1 second.
Sure.
I'm not sure who's taking the minutes at this time.
Okay.
Typically for our committee, the secretary has been the minute taker.
Okay.
So just wanted to verify if that was happening.
Sure. Supervisor Dowling, are you currently recording minutes?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I think we will move on as we do not have any public comment. Then this is kind of what you were alluding to before, Supervisor Dowling, the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. And I know there was some chatter actually just before we had jumped on about the minutes. Patty, can you enlighten us a little bit on what that situation is?
For sure, we're missing the minutes from the direct previous meeting, which would have been January 5th of this year. And then I believe the previous meeting we had to that was July 26th of 21. And the clerk does not have minutes for either of those dates. I did reach out to the previous chair and did not get a response. I put in the details of why I was reaching out and didn't get a response. So I'm assuming if, again, we did not have them or could not find them, whatever the case was, nobody's going to recall that far back of details of votes or anything.
Okay, so we have no minutes to approve then from previous meetings. All right. Alrighty then we will move on to the first discussion point, reviewing resolution 59052022 from our previous county board meeting. I'm going to open the floor here to Supervisor Dowling. If you have any more additional insight, I know there was a few contention points with the wording in particular, and I guess if you could do us a favor and kind of recap those. Kind of some of the friendly amendments that were also proposed with this, and the ultimate goal of rectifying a rule that was passed from the organizational meeting that we had back in April.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I really appreciate it. So the reason I brought, I'm just gonna pull up my notes here. Give me 1 second. There we go. Okay, so the reason I brought this before the board was because on the April 26th meeting, Chairman Egan had read a public correspondence letter about the changes that we had made to the rule. So again, we had, just to refresh everybody's mind, we had taken out the word Zoom because there was a possible copyright infringement using that word, and instead we used the phrase live streaming. The situation with that is that live streaming is a really broad term. So for example, we're live streaming right now on YouTube, but it doesn't allow for the public to comment or interact with us with audio and video. So we could also live stream on Facebook, Instagram, Twitch. Again, the public does not have an option to comment with video or audio. The great news is that using a platform like Zoom, we're already doing this. So we're already following proper protocol for our community. So the words I've added here just clarify what we're already doing. So there's no policy change, which I believe corporate counsel Marianne spoke about too, which is why we only needed majority vote to push this through. So again, we're not changing anything. This is already a rule that exists in our rule book. So let's see here. The only friendly amendment I wanted to make was before the word educational events. I wanted to add the word online educational events. That would imply that we're already using technology. And for example, our park board has a tour coming up that could technically qualify as an event, an educational event. Obviously, we're like walking through the marsh, so we don't have internet access. So that would be the only friendly amendment I would make to this. Does that help?
Absolutely. And that's, I think we just wanted to ensure it was on record exactly what the intentions were and how we were trying to address some of the concerns that were brought up. I'm going to kind of open the floor here to any of the other supervisors or board member or committee members here that would like to maybe give their input on this resolution. I think our ultimate goal was to have something hammered down tonight that we'd be able to send on to, I believe, to JPS, who then would also have their discussion and then have this ready for our next board meeting. Go ahead, Supervisor Nichols. You are on mute, I think. I think you're on mute, Supervisor Nichols. Unless she was talking to someone in the background.
I think she might have said she's going to get her phone.
And if it's okay, if I could clarify something really quick too that I forgot, I think it would also be super helpful if we came with a timeline for JPS as well as for the board, because I know not all rooms are set up with recording capabilities right now. So if we came to the board with a timeline of how quickly we think this could be enacted.
Can't get my microphone. Gotcha. I believe there was a setting initially when launching into Zoom that would allow access to the microphone. So I would probably suggest looking at what was allowed for permissions for Zoom through your device that you're currently streaming from. So I do believe we will try to get to a vote here. I do want Supervisor Nichols to be able to weigh in, as well as looks like Supervisor Norton. Are you trying to? Do you have a point to be made?
No, that's that I'm in agreement and support what Supervisor Dowling has presented.
Excellent. And I actually believe the original resolution was actually yours, Supervisor Norton. So it's just kind of building off of what you had already submitted. So we will.
Sorry, while we wait for Supervisor Nichols to get her stuff figured out, I see County Executive Damel's on here. Would we be able to hear his opinion on this?
Yeah, we can. I'll recognize Supervisor Damel if you'd like to give some.
Hello?
There you are. We can hear you.
Hi. No, I think this is a great idea. I like the accessibility. The concerns that I have administratively is how to implement, especially the far side. We want to make sure we're putting out a good product. I really do appreciate the idea of a timeline. And I would like to ask Patty if she has an idea of a timeline it would take for us to at least get rolling with something that's passable, and then get to the point where we could put out a really good product, whether that is a request for more funds, because we're going to have some budget for this set aside and appropriated, and what the ultimate goal is. And I really think the ultimate goal for these virtual meetings is a decent product and a certain amount of rooms. Do I think that we could do 17 rooms? Probably not, but I think we can easily come up with 5 in the county that all committees should be able to share, and we can have a really good product and get the essence of the bill. I love the transparency aspect of this.
All right, so I can speak as well to the plan if you're at that point.
Absolutely.
Okay, so going from essentially 0 to 100, I'm going to put it. We want to start out with a simpler plan and migrate up to the deluxe plan. We can definitely get this going at a low cost, and to be as efficient and frugal as we can with what we already have. We can start this now. In fact, we're recording this. If there is an agreement or a consensus that our Zoom record or our Zoom meeting is the live streaming part to start with, then we take the recording and we will upload it to YouTube for viewing. We can do that now. We've already done some. We tested some. There's already some possibly out there. We have created a channel separate from, we're going to have a public meetings channel separate from what is already existing as the Winnebago County YouTube channel, just because I think it'd be better to keep the meetings separate if anything were to be taken down, or if anything happened where the channel would be disabled and that's out of our control. That would be a YouTube choice. I know it's probably a rare thing, but if it were to happen, it wouldn't take down the entire Winnebago County channel then. To start with, we're going to have one, because we can record these meetings and load them up to YouTube for viewing. If we get to the point, which is down the road, where we will do YouTube broadcast simultaneously with the Zoom, so it'll be live as we're recording now, but it would be live if we choose to take that step. Then we will have to make sub channels on YouTube, because you cannot stream multiple meetings simultaneously under the same account. So we do know what that should look like. We do know that it should be an easy setup. We have that part ironed out. So right now, for a recorded meeting to occur, the person hosting the meeting needs a Zoom license, a microphone, a speaker, a camera. What else is there? Let's see. Camera, microphone, speaker, and Zoom, and possibly a display. So there are a couple thoughts. We already own multiple OWL devices throughout the county. Multiple rooms already have a projector or a display. So there's a couple thoughts on, we have one that I asked that we can check out. We talked about possibly making a kit that might stay in some designated rooms where it would then require committees to schedule in those rooms. And then we can grow into developing budgeting and developing the video conferencing rooms that are permanent, where you walk in, there's fixed cameras, microphones, speakers on the walls. Nobody even needs a device, and you can do this. That part can be right now. For the June 2nd PNF, my department is going to help set up our OWL in the PNF room, and we're going to try running it with that. I know Joan said last time she tried to use her laptop, which caused her to lose her device, and she's the minute taker and everything else. She had to literally turn her laptop around to be those things: camera, speaker, microphone. So we're going to try with that. And then the next step that we can take is that instant live on YouTube. One comment I want to make, as we tested some stuff and we planned out how everyone will get their recorded Zoom files to the clerk. We're going to put it in a shared folder, and we're going to automate how it goes to YouTube so that we don't have to share credentials with everyone, to reduce the risk of accidental deletions or just doing something that we shouldn't do, you know, maybe to another file that's another department's recording. So several of these recordings are already in the shared folder. We did some spot checking, and there was one that is ready to go to YouTube that we happened to spot check, and after the adjournment of the meeting, the recording was not stopped, and there's definite inappropriate stuff on the recording. So that needs to be a consideration. Also, these are public records, so we do not feel they should be in one location. We do not have the capacity to allow these to all build up on our shared space that we're putting them. So we're wanting that to be a temporary thing until it's uploaded to YouTube. But we do have some drives available that are larger and out of production that we can utilize to have a local copy. So we're definitely going to start with that. So there will be the YouTube copy, and there will be a local copy here. So if anything happens, we do have those as public records. We will probably need to be clear on what the retention of those should be. I'm not sure if that is a 7-year retention like other public records, or if that is something that can be different. And then the other factor I wanted to talk about will be the training and people resources, as far as how do we, I did talk to a couple other entities that are doing this, some comparable counties that are similar size to us. They spoke about having a liaison with each committee that knows how to start Zoom, knows how to record, and will get us the file, and eventually be trained if we do the YouTube immediately, kind of thing. So my concern, and I'm asking it to be considered as well, is the people time if IS is expected to monitor all these meetings, assist in starting, stopping, and any other questions or troubleshooting. That is another consideration. And I think those are the main points I wanted to touch on. So again, we're essentially doing it now. The Zoom meetings are live. Those links are publicly posted. And then the recording will go to YouTube for future viewing. We can do it now.
Okay. And we're just gonna go right down from the order I saw the hands raised, County Exec Damo.
Yeah, my question is for Supervisor Norton and Supervisor Dow, well, I guess the whole committee, just to clarify the direction where we want to go. So I understand how to direct the operations here. So the far side aspect, definitely the ability for the public to respond and comment is a big portion of this, I'm guessing. I just want to clarify that. Number two, on the recording, do we eventually intend to have this as a feature on our website for people to be able to see the meetings? And I would agree to that. I think that's a good direction. And also, Supervisor Dowling, I did see that you mentioned that per board rules, 2 years we have to keep these on. And we also have to make sure that state statute also agrees to that. If state statute says 7 years, that's what we're going to have to do. So we're going to need a little bit of clarification from Mary Ann on that, because state statute always supersedes our board rules. But I think the Zoom or the YouTube option, I think will be sufficient for that. I just wanted to make sure that I understood Supervisor Norton's direction and Supervisor Dowling's direction to make sure that we are including that far side component for public comment. And if we eventually want to get this on our website.
I'm gonna open this up to Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would say, yeah, it can include on the website. I would presume that we just have a link to the YouTube channel that we're going to create. That's how you get access to the meetings. Whether or not we put a link on every single meeting to the video that after it is, that could be done in the future, but not right now. I think it could be done. The YouTube link could be put on the website somewhere on the county board page or somewhere that says you want to see access to watch the meetings either live or past. You go to there. So that's my question there. As far as storage, as far as I'm from research, I found out YouTube will. I mean, I know on the Oshkosh channel, I know it's Oshkosh Community Media. They have meetings like 8 years ago. So I think I know Patty said you have to have separate between the YouTube storage and our storage, but I think YouTube wise, I think they have capacity to have almost storage for a very long period of time. And lastly, Patty concerned about having someone monitor every meeting. Well, I don't know if we really have to have that. I agree that we have to train these people, but we don't have anybody at every single Zoom meeting to make sure the Zoom things go correct. I know I've been at some meetings where the Zoom link and the Zoom process has not gone too well. IS has not been there. So I don't know necessarily if we would have to have an IS liaison in every single meeting. Obviously, I do agree that Patty and someone from her staff is going to have to train these people to do it. And maybe the first meeting or two will be a learning curve or a work in progress. But yeah, I don't think every single meeting you have to have a liaison from the IS department there.
Supervisor Nichols.
Thank you. I think the intent of the rule is good. More access, more availability in different ways. That's great. I'm also concerned that using this meeting as an example, this meeting is not accessible to folks who don't have devices, who don't have an adequate internet connection, who don't have a phone that allows them to, use unlimitless minutes. So this meeting, as an example, is not open and available to everyone, to the general public. If there were a physical location listed with the agenda, then that's different. So my concerns are with the transition time. the intent of the rule is good, but we can't do it right now. There needs to be time to transition, and there's lots to consider. Things like what exactly do we need? First, a plan, right? And a cost analysis. What kind of training is needed? How will staffing be handled? What's the funding required? And then the time needed to actually install the equipment and make this a reality. So while I think the intent is good, I don't think it's a rule that fits the situation. I have grave concerns about open meetings and access for the public, especially those disadvantaged among us. And that's where I sit today. I think we have a rule that's not able to be implemented. And in order to create such a rule, the work needs to be done ahead of time. I'm not opposed to the concept. Pretty much the process, though, has me in disagreement at the moment.
Thank you, Supervisor Nichols. County Exec Damel, are you still having your hand up to add?
No, I have one point and then one question. I completely agree with Supervisor Nichols that we have to make sure that we are maintaining that in-person option. I think that could easily be done with a preface or an added line on this resolution stating that meetings will be held with a physical location. I think that's an excellent point to be considered. The other question that I would have would be to Director Francoeur and to the rest of you to figure out what is a reasonable timeline. And if Director Francoeur could give us what she thinks a reasonable timeline is, and if that's agreeable to the rest of you, I think that makes a lot of sense. Also, to Supervisor Nichols' point, how long do we have to make sure that this is enacted?
Great question. Director Francoeur.
As far as the timeline, again, if we agree that the Zoom, for now, the Zoom meeting is the live stream, and we can have hybrid meetings of in person as well as remote option. And that was another agenda item further on the list to discuss, but it does apply to this resolution as well. But the timeline is now, and we can take the step again to go instant to YouTube very quickly. We can do it now. I just, I hesitate just because I want a little bit more testing and a little bit more training before we do that. And regarding the statement I made earlier, where we had, I believe it was 7 recordings submitted. We spot checked a couple, and we already found one with inappropriate stuff on the end of the meeting. So some kind of guidelines, policy, whatever is going to have to be in place for how to handle that. So, and then as far as going to the future to get to the more permanent solutions, that is a funding item. I do not have anything itemized in my budget for that. I've been, we've been bringing up ARPA money, but there's nothing decided about that yet. So I don't know where the money comes from. I did get some quotes from a vendor, and the numbers are big, but yes, we can do it smaller. It all depends on the product you want and the ease of use. And we can start with one room, budget it one next year, whatever. We can, it's what you guys want, how fast you want to get there. We can do it with money. I mean, that's the timeline, is when can we budget for it? When can it fit? And, when we get it, we will outsource that. We do not have audiovisual experts. We do not have the capacity for wiring and putting a system like that together. So that is the quotes that I have gotten, covers everything. It would be a walk-in, ready to go room. And again, people don't even need to have devices. So I hope that answers the question on the timeline. If I could just quickly add a couple more answers before I forget. There was a question on putting the link to the website. That will absolutely be the case. We will, as soon as we upload it to YouTube, we get a link, and that will, you can search YouTube and get there, or we will put it on the website. And we had a couple thoughts on that, and maybe have to work with the clerk whether we want to put them on the calendar, or just have another item on the side for recorded meetings, or we could put them on the calendar under the meeting that occurred. So if people say, oh, there was a meeting last week at, P&F was last week, they can look at that day on the calendar and find the recording there as well. So links are no problem. The public participation question or component, I have a question on that. Will we treat it the same as every agenda generally has a public comment agenda item? Will that be the time, or will you guys expect, again, to be able to, for the public to put items in chat, make comments, have questions throughout the meeting? Because who will monitor and manage those as well? So that's my question on the public participation. And then, excuse me, lastly, the YouTube storage comment, we can rely on that. I don't think, my point was, I don't think we should. It is a public record. If it is on YouTube, YouTube can decide at any time to take something down. For instance, if they discover a copyright violation in a recording, they will take it down. So, and there's then no copy for the expectation to have these as public records. So we would keep a second copy and start out with what we have. There may be needs in the future, but I don't think for a while we should be okay with the storage. And those were the points I had so far.
Yeah, I would just say I would probably anticipate that the public comment section will be concurrent with what we currently have as our standards for any meeting. At the beginning of the meeting, where they can address anyone within the committees, their support, disdain, whatever it may be for particular agenda items for the evening. That was just what I would think would probably be the proper route. I will open up though to Supervisor Norton.
Thank you. I think I think we can go small, as Patty calls it, because I'll give you an example. Last Friday, health board meeting was Zoomed. It was used the OWL. It was recorded. I asked for a recording. It was already sent to me. Good quality. We had both people at a hybrid meeting, so we had people both live in the conference room there in the administration building. Also, we had a couple of people on the Zoom. So I anticipate that's where to go forward. And I think we need enough owls to cover basically the administration area, and then maybe out by the Coggle area. That's what I would think. As far as, Patty's comment about comments after a meeting, well, what you can do, we could get the YouTube not media, or they have a app where you can edit it, and we could say, well, the meeting part will be edited, but some can be edited after, before it's being uploaded. So that could be done. So I think you can take concern of that way. So, I mean, I could send you, or the health department could send you an example of the type of meeting in the future, because they did use the OWL, and you can see everyone in the room. It focuses on the person speaking. It was good clarity. One thing that the health department did, you can see what the person was doing, taking notes. Probably not every department will have that, but I think some departments could do it right away. Some departments are gonna say, well, we need some more training. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Alrighty, we'll do Supervisor Nichols and then Supervisor Dowling. Unless you just had your hand up from before.
Director Francoeur, you mentioned that everyone could start with YouTube today. So what sort of equipment would need to be purchased for that to happen? Or are the
Well-
owls all you need?
I'm sorry, or what?
Or are the owls all you need?
The owls would be all we would need to get started with, again, a simple, that is your microphone, camera. So again, it depends how big the meeting is. If you have a rectangular setup of tables and you can put it in the middle, because it is that is the speaker and the microphone. So in order for everyone to hear well, that would be perfect for a smaller application. If it gets large, or there are public people attending and they're sitting way in the back and they're trying to talk, it will be difficult to hear. But for now, that would serve just fine.
And how many do you have?
We currently have 6 owned. However, I don't know like what departments, these were bought by the departments. I have 1 in IS, which we would loan out, and we're going to do the PNF meeting in June 2nd. But for example, the district attorney owns 1. There's 1 in the emergency command vehicle, which wouldn't probably ever move. I'm sure that one would stay where it is. So public health has a couple, and emergency management has 1. So if those people are willing to have a conference room where they're designated, and this, calling it a kit for lack of a better term right now, of what is needed would be left in the conference room, and then committees can schedule in those rooms. We would have 6 to work with if they're willing. I would guess public health, emergency management probably is willing, to have at least 1 in the sheriff's area that could be designated. So that is a call I'd have to make, but for sure we would check ours out.
Okay, so then we still have to have folks that are willing to share their owls right now and their space.
Or we can look at purchasing, the owls are somewhere between $800 and $1,000 a piece. We could look at purchasing a few more of those via my budget and have those as to be checked out.
Okay, but as of today, that's very helpful information to me, knowing that we have some tools at our disposal. However, it sounds like we still have some steps to be worked out before we can determine whether or not we need additional equipment, and where that equipment can be used or would be used.
I mean, we do know the rooms that are typically used for all the committee meetings. We have that as well.
But there's still enough questions in my mind to be answered that tell me we're not quite ready to go live with this yet, so to speak. So I would I would be most comfortable getting those questions answered, because there may be costs associated with those answers before moving ahead with a recommendation from this committee.
Supervisor Dowling.
Awesome, thank you. All right. So again, just to clarify this, the rule that we're talking about is already in place. So we're not changing the rule. So that's not changing. I like the price of the owls. I think that's a great price. If we need more, that we could get like kits available for people and have room reservation times. I do agree with Supervisor Nichols that it would be beneficial to have hybrid meetings in person and online availability. And then just to clarify about the public speaking times, I do have in here during the appropriate time for public comment. And that's just based off of Robert's Rule of Order. So that's not like something I came up with. That's just based on when, like, so in our agenda item 3 was public comment. So it would just happen naturally as the agenda allows. So we could disable chats if we wanted to. That would, I guess, be up to whoever's running the meeting. Robert's Rule of Order does not address that. So.
Thank you, Supervisor
Okay.
Dowling.
Could you say that again about public comments?
Oh, sure, not a problem. So public comments are just to be made during Robert's Rules of Order during public comment time on the agenda. So, so for like our agenda today, item number 3 opened up for public comment. During a typical meeting, according to Robert's rules, the public cannot comment at any time during the meeting. So they can't like jump in right now in the middle of our conversation and comment. They just have to listen. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
I thought I heard something else. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, not a problem.
County Exec Damo.
Yeah, thank you. A couple things that I wanted to point out is that we do have 2 rooms currently that have a camera that work well. JPS last Monday, last Tuesday, I'm trying to remember the day it was, turned out really well. You could hear people well. The visuals were good. That room was pretty close to good to go. Airport also has facilities and equipment in there where they put out a good, so I guess what I'm saying is we're not starting from scratch. And I have complete faith in Patty and her team and supervision from me, of course, that we can pull this off. The only concern for me was to make sure that we had clear direction that we're aiming to bring the far side component public comment in. My other concern is to make sure that we are specifying a physical location has to be there, the hybrid option. And if Director Francoeur is not concerned about a timeline, I guess I am not either. And that I do have faith in her and I'm so in support of this.
Thank you, County Exec Damo. Supervisor Norton.
I just want to add, Patty and the chairman and county executive, if it has to, I mean, we can ask the county board chairman to take this out of the county board budget. It is kind of a county board related initiative. Well, it is, it's mine, you know, and I don't know what the cost is. Like say, I think to get some started and go small, as Patty says, yeah, we may have to buy either more owls or maybe more, I don't know, laptops or something to go with it. But I think, like I say, I'm more and more convinced of doing this. After I saw that owl last month at the health board meeting, and then last week when I saw the health board meeting being used and utilized with YouTube and Zoom, and I saw the recording, I am more and more convinced of doing this. We also have another room in the Coggan building that's already camera ready. I think, is every committee can do it right now? Probably not, but I think a number of them can get it started in the next month. By July or August, I think could be fully, maybe I'm pushing Patty a little bit too much, but I think we can get a number of them who are comfortable in doing it now.
Supervisor Dowling.
Awesome, thank you. Where County Executive Damel suggested something about adding a hybrid option, and I'm willing to make a friendly amendment to this to include that. Is there somewhere specific or language that my other supervisors would like to suggest of where we could put it in here?
This is, Mr. Chairman, my only comment is when we did this hybrid 2 years ago, or have remote meetings, it was part of the rule, I think it still is, that there has to be someone at a designated spot or a host spot. For example, at the Orange King, or not at the administration building or at the human service building. That's been kind of loose. So I think we can somehow you're right, Supervisor Darling. If we can make that where you have to have where there's, I don't know, host spot or a spot where the public can come. Yeah, then I think that satisfies not just that, but also satisfy Supervisor Nicholson. So like I say, I know it's part of the meeting, the rule for the general meetings. Somehow we have to incorporate that for all meetings. That yeah.
I would agree with that as well. I believe, are we able, I believe Supervisor Stafford would also like to make a comment if we are able to allow that.
You would be the chair, so you would just decide.
I was more of the technical side, so go ahead,
Oh.
Supervisor Stafford.
Oh, well, great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two quick questions. The first is, listening to the conversation, if this is forwarded to JPS for consideration, one of the things that I would ask the committee to consider is the scope and what the scope of it is. One of the things that I'm not really tracking on is, as I read the resolution, the scope is rather narrow. It talks about existing meetings that are being already using, I should say, that kind of technology via Zoom or whatnot. And I know the committee, as well as on the board, we talked about the end state or even opening this up to other meetings, getting technology in place maybe that's closer in, which is all good. But one of the things I know that our committee will be looking for is, what is the scope and what are we trying to accomplish? So I just want to make sure that when it gets to JPS, that we have a good understanding of what that scope is for this specific resolution, knowing that it may not actually answer the broader question. Maybe it will. I just want to make sure that there's some conversation around that. And the second is, I would also request that maybe Patty or someone else attend when we do bring this up to JPS, so we have a subject matter expert in the room as we also talk and question and deliberate that. So those are my two comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Stafford. All right, so as it stands, we were discussing this resolution. Are we willing to, I guess, wait until we get some further information back in regards to cost, location, anything in regards to that? Do we want to potentially approach this as two separate resolutions? One addressing the current resolution that was brought forward, as well as a secondary one that would be around the topic of the cost of implementing some of the maybe OWL systems if we go with that route, and obviously kind of laying out the current locations for that. I think if Supervisor Dowling, if you are willing to, I guess, give a little insight, again, I just refresh me here with are we adding the hybrid wording within the current resolution as it stands, and then voting, trying to, I guess, amend that resolution and bringing that forward, or bringing that as the scope of what we're trying to bring to JPS to their meeting?
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually trying to think back to our last county board meeting, and I think someone had suggested all meetings in buildings shall be live streamed or digitally broadcasted and recorded. So that would also take care of Supervisor Nichols' concern as far as accessibility for everyone to attend the meetings. So we could do that. I'm fine with adding the word hybrid. I just don't know where to put it. So if you guys have suggestions about that, I'm more than willing to help with that. I really do like your suggestion, Supervisor Gustafson, if we could add maybe like 2 different items. Or maybe, I don't know if the second one would even be an item, but more of a process of how to do things. So agreements from the sheriff's office to allow us to use one of the OWL systems, or the public health office to use one of their OWL systems.
Okay, Supervisor Norton. Oh, County Exec Damo.
Yeah, I just want to let this committee know that if you need time to think about this and think about the language on it, whether this gets through tonight and goes to JPS now, or if it goes to next month, I just want to assure you that operationally, I do intend to start doing this now. Whether this resolution pushes forward or not, we know the direction, we know the spirit of what you want to do, and I just want to let you know that you're comfortable that if you do need more time to think about the wording and get together with Corporation Counsel, who's on vacation this week, to really figure that out and dial it in. We will be doing Zoom for these committee meetings and commission meetings for now, and we will continue to work on the YouTube channel. So just if this doesn't go past this committee today, we are going to be doing this operationally, and that's just a word I wanted to give to you.
Thank you, County Executive Damo. County Supervisor Nichols.
Sure, I'll take a promotion.
I was almost like,
Executive Damo, could you just clarify? You said that committee meetings would happen via Zoom. Does that mean on Zoom only, or the hybrid version that was mentioned earlier?
Completely the hybrid version. We are still going to have meetings in person, is going to be the direction that we are going to go, with a Zoom option at that in-person meeting so that we have access for all.
Okay, thank you.
Zoom is the mechanism to get the public to be able to be seen and heard.
Yes, I understand. It's just that he said all meetings would be held on Zoom, and I didn't know if that meant strictly on Zoom like we are tonight, or a hybrid version. So.
Okay.
No, I did mean in addition to. And Zoom, I agree the fact that we took Zoom out in 2024. Winnebago County is scheduled to go to Office 365, where we will have what is it, Patty? Is it meetings or is it Teams? We'll have Teams access license for free.
Teams.
Well, they'll be paid for with the whole licensing for Office 365.
Correct, included.
Yes, and that is the goal. That is our next renewal period, and it is definitely the goal. It is a huge project, and it will. The timeline might be determined as we go here if we'll be able to make that time, but for sure, it could be sooner, it could be later. It's a huge project we're working through to transition the county to that.
Okay, if that's the way things will run right now in that hybrid version with the technology that we have available to us, then I don't see any reason why we can't wait and get a little better idea of the costs behind this, because after all, we're going to need to go back for a budget request, and the budget process is starting soon, if it hasn't already started, with county staff. And that, in my eyes, would be a more open and transparent way of accomplishing this, instead of passing a rule and then needing money to make that rule happen. So let's be transparent and upfront with the taxpayers about this, so that everybody in the room knows how much it costs at the end of the day.
Would you like to put that into a motion? Supervisor Nichols.
This is recorded, so if you need to hear it again.
No, that's that's okay. Okay, I can make that motion if you wish. Move to postpone action on resolution 22.0, or I'm sorry, this resolution 59/052/022 until to determine the costs associated with equipment necessary to make the rule work. I can work on rewording that slightly.
I think that kind of captures Supervisor Norton.
If you get a second for me.
I think there's two separate issues. I think Supervisor Dowling's resolution is one thing. I think whether this goes forward, I think it should, because I would oppose any kind of delay unless that delay has a definite time on it, because I mean, we just heard that we have the equipment. I've seen it in action at a health board meeting. I don't know why. I mean, we have to delay any further unless you give a definite time when we are going to decide on that and send it on to the appropriate committee. And I think there's two different things. I think Supervisor Dowling's resolution is separate. We already passed a resolution or a rule making every meeting has to be live streamed and recorded. So that's done. That was back in the organizational meeting. And I'm, like I say, I'm not willing to have full board. I'm willing to give some time. And I know it may have additional purpose, but I don't think you should postpone it. But I think Supervisor Dowling is separate. And the only way I'll accept any postponement is if I'm given a date of when they'll come with that. Within the next month or two, yes. If no date, then I'll definitely would not support that.
Director Francoeur, when can you provide that date for us? Because I don't know when you have to have your budget submitted. Or when you bring your budget back to us, I guess.
I guess going back to what Supervisor Norton just said, I was directed to comply with what was already passed in April to record these. So we have a YouTube channel set up. We have a process now to record your Zoom meeting, get us the recording, and we're posting it on YouTube. It's already in place and there's already some doing that. And this meeting is going to be put up right away. So I'm going to try to reach out to, we're going to get directions out to committee chairs. We're going to, I will reach out and see what owls can be shared or dedicated to rooms, which rooms we can have committees schedule in. I will look at my budget. If we need 2 or 3 owls at the price that I know they are currently, I can possibly just get those out of my budget or talk to the county board if there's any room in their budget. But I think it's already happening and already capable. Like for the meeting tonight, because it is Zoom only, there's really no technology needed. I could be streaming this live on YouTube with the click of a checkbox. So, but with the hybrid situation, that's where you need the camera, speaker, microphone, and it's already happening. The cost stuff that I'm assuming you're alluding to, but you do include the owls, but for the bigger, more permanent solutions, again, those are the big numbers that we would definitely have to, if we do multiple rooms, it would be a bid. If we do one room at a time, it could be quotes. We know those are going to be bigger numbers if we want it to be permanently installed for a video conferencing room. So it is already happening. I thought the question was more about the public, well, adding the educational events and then having the public option, which again, Zoom or another video conferencing platform is the way you accomplish that. So we have that. There are plenty of Zoom licenses throughout the county already.
Yeah, and I did want to add to that kind of clarification of what I think the resolution that we're bringing forward tonight, that we are trying to get to JPS, is in concern. I think actually in general, what it's going to do is alleviate some of the areas with other committees that we might not actually be, following the rules, such as the educational events, which Director Francor just had alluded to as well. So I believe with it as it stands, I agree with Supervisor Norton with trying to get this rule at least adjusted as we had intended, moving that along, and then having a second portion of this with the additional resourcing needed to carry out kind of the retrofitting of particular rooms, and then what that may look like.
So I think I'm hearing you say that the committee would like to move forward with some action on this rule tonight, and then come back at a later time through the budget process with other requests that might be necessary. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's pretty much, that's the gist that how I am perceiving it. Supervisor Dowling.
Then I'm just gonna remove that motion that I made.
No worries. Supervisor Dowling.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I just wanted to make a quick comment. I would be willing to help get a process set up, standard operating process set up for people to use the OWL devices, whether that's like a written note of how things could be used easily and efficiently, or helping like record a video for how to do it. I'd be willing to help out with that, to help the process transition quickly and smoothly. Not that you need any help, Patty, but
No, that sounds great.
okay, perfect. Just to take the load off and then make things really easy for everybody. Because I think when the rule was passed, the knee-jerk reaction was like, oh no, how do we make this happen? Let's just all meet on Zoom. And I don't think that was the initial intention with the rule, which is why I wanted to kind of refine it a little bit more. So I guess more like support for everyone, for our fellow county board supervisors, as well as our committees, to make sure that everyone's able to follow this with as much ease and convenience as possible.
Alrighty, we'll take one last comment here from County Executive Damo, and then I will also have Supervisor Dowling read off the resolution one more time, and we will vote on that.
All right, just to clarify, one, the idea, this is already a rule that's in place, so we will be live streaming and trying to get that backside component at all meetings. So that's one thing that's already in place. It'll continue going forward. The other thing, the biggest question I think you have as a committee is the wording. You want to make sure the words are correct, so that you get the meetings you want to make sure are recorded without unintended consequences, like having to follow planning and zoning around in a cornfield, which would be hard. So the rule in place of recording and live streaming all meetings already done. That's as Director Francor said, she was directed in April to do that. We're doing that. So I guess the thing you need to consider right now is just the wording in the resolution. Is it ready yet? Is it dialed in to get the intended meetings you want to get without unintended consequences? That's really the discussion here. And even if we pass this, it would not appropriate any large amounts of spending amounts. Those each individual projects would have to come through the board for approval of resolution. Just to give you a little clarity there, Supervisor Nichols, that by saying, yes, this is good to go, you wouldn't be appropriating that money. We do that separately per project. But really, I want to make sure that you guys are focused on the resolution and the wording in the resolutions. Is that dialed in? I think that's the discussion that you need to have.
Which follows up to exactly where I wanted this to go. So Supervisor Dowling, if you want to state the current resolution with the amendments that were proposed.
Sure. Would everyone be okay if I added like what County Executive Damel just said about the following people through cornfields? So make a friendly amendment to all meetings in buildings. Would that clarify that we're not following people?
Mr. Chair, do we need a motion on the floor first?
Yeah, we'll do a motion.
Oh, you want to make the changes beforehand? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that okay? So I can read it
Yeah.
with continuity? Okay. Is everyone
ahead.
okay with the all meetings in buildings?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So let's see here. I'm going to make a motion for resolution 59. That would read, all meetings in buildings and online educational events shall be live streamed or digitally broadcasted and recorded. The live stream platform must include an option for the public to make a video appearance with speaking capabilities during the appropriate time for public comment. Recordings will be made available until the end of the current term.
Do you still need the hybrid mode verbiage in there?
Is that implied with all meetings in buildings?
I guess in my mind, I was taking that as just not on a bus or in a cornfield or whatever. And I was thinking maybe you could, if I could suggest a place for the hybrid comment.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you say, and online educational events shall be held in a hybrid mode with live streaming, digitally broadcast and recorded, and a physical room, a physical address, however you want to word that last part, if that helps.
So shall be held in a hybrid mode, comma. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
With live streaming or digitally broadcast and recorded, as well as a physical address, physical location. A dedicated physical address. Designated physical address. Something to add that last piece on there.
I think designated physical address too. I like it specifically in that regard.
I'm just writing what you said since I have to repeat it back.
Yep.
Okay, so all meetings in buildings and online educational events shall be held in a hybrid mode with live stream or digitally broadcasted and recorded with a designated physical address. Does that sound right?
Maybe
I'll
in addition to a designated physical address?
Could we move the designated physical address to after all meetings in a building with a designated physical address?
I personally think it would be easier to consult with, now that we have an idea of the direction we want to go, to consult with corporate counsel to make sure that we have the appropriate wording so that when it does go to judiciary and come to the board, that we don't have to continue to have these conversations, that we can finally move on from this.
Any thoughts on that,
I mean, we've spent an hour and 15 minutes on this now.
Supervisor Norton, looks like you had something to say possibly.
Well, I was just gonna say we could approve it now and then with the note that Corporation Council may have to correct it. Yeah.
And we can also maybe have Corporation Council weigh in with if we are moving this on to JPS as well at that spot.
That sounds fair.
Because I know like at least move on from our committee to JPS, who then again they could technically shut this down in that regard, if they felt that there was a language that was unclear. So with that being said, Supervisor Dowling, you made a motion. Actually, you want to make a motion one more time with the proper with the wording.
Sure. Patty, are you okay if I move some of this?
It's your motion. I just was putting out an idea or a thought.
No, I like that. I like your idea. Let me get this go. Okay. So I motion to approve resolution 59-052022. That would state all meetings in buildings and online educational events shall be held in a hybrid mode, comma, with live stream or digitally broadcast and recorded. The live stream platform must include an option for the public to make a video appearance with speaking capabilities. During the appropriate time for public comment, recordings will be made available until the end of the current term.
Second.
All righty. A motion and second, and we'll call the question unless Supervisor Nichols, you have a little bit of comment.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have a kid situation at the moment. Could you just repeat the first sentence, Rachel, about the hybrid meetings? Rachel, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, user error. Okay, all meetings in buildings and online educational events shall be held in a hybrid mode, comma, with live streamed or digitally broadcasted and recorded. And maybe the word with should be while instead. But that was, I'd have to play it back on the recording here.
That's okay. Thank you.
Sure.
All righty. We'll call the question. All those in favor of the resolution 59 signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? We have one. Okay, so it is approved, and that will be sent on now to the Judiciary Committee. Alrighty. Director Francoeur, I'm going to open up the floor to you for this next discussion topic, which is the redundant fiber loop capital request.
Right, so this has been in the capital improvement program with the intention of 2022 being our engineering period, and then 2023 would be installation. And I did present this at the special orders in May, and my analogy was if you consider a circle, we kind of have half a circle with our fiber, and a break, a cut, damage along the line has the ability to take out multiple buildings, multiple functions, possibly the internet connectivity. With building the second half of the circle, it would allow us to configure the equipment to turn around and go the other way if there's a break anywhere on the circle. So, and we also have two point of presence for our internet provider where we can get to the internet in two different directions. So it gives us great redundancy for all of our critical functions. And we're primarily, with this request, we're connecting our two biggest data centers. And between those two, it is the county admin building and the jail. So, or the sheriff's office. So there's, you know, the backups are really big with data flowing between those two. I think you guys only got a copy of the CIP where there's a brief description and the money part, but I did do an agenda item report which has more detail. And that is what would go on to P&F. Also, just again, to take a little step back, the previous IS committee did vote on this in January, but I wanted to bring it to you since everyone is new as well. And it did not go forward before now because we didn't meet, and then it got too close to the board changing, and they didn't want me to present to one board and then ask for funding from another board. So we waited until the change. And that's why it's going forward now. So again, this year we would engineer the route that we propose. I can't even show a picture or a wish list of that. I mean, we know the direction we kind of want to go, but that is up to if it is going to be aerial or if it'll be underground. We need road right of ways. We need permission from utility pole owners. So they will tell us if we say we want to go, you know, down Bowen Street all the way up to Snell or whatever it might be. They will say, well, you have to go 2 blocks over this way, or you have, you know, so once we get it engineered, then we can bid it out for exactly what the construction will be. So our estimate for this engineering part is truly just based on, you know, historical work and historical projects where we can kind of get have a good estimate or guesstimate. I think I was trying to spit out, and then move on to an exact bid, you know, because once we have it engineered, that is part of the work, and it will give us the redundancy for backups for the courts, video conferencing with the jail. Let's see, there's lots of examples of the critical data that runs between there. We also segregate public internet traffic between, so it doesn't touch our network, and all of the dependencies on the internet. This would be a great redundant feature of our infrastructure. We started investing in fiber in the year 2000 approximately, and we own currently 35 miles of fiber. So it continues on with how we're approaching it already. And lastly, to make you aware, I did look, the main alternative would be leasing or renting a connection like this. So I did reach out to Spectrum and AT&T and was quoted for a similar option to what the fiber would provide us. I was quoted $8,200 per month, and we would have to put edge equipment on each end, which is very expensive, and that equipment also has ongoing maintenance costs. So compared to the fiber and utilizing existing equipment in place to renting, it's at most a 2-year payback for this option. So I guess that's my main points. If there are questions, I can take those.
As someone who works in IT, I know the obviously the importance of a project like this. So I thought it was very well put together. I'm going to open up the floor. Supervisor Nichols.
Thank you, Chair. I'll move to approve the requested funding for the redundant fiber loop.
Second, Mr. Chairman, Mike Norton.
I do have one question,
Sure, absolutely, go for
or
it.
two maybe. Director Francoeur, were these the same numbers that were approved by the IS committee back in January?
Yes.
Okay. My only concern at this point would be if they're big enough, given the cost increases we've seen in things over the last 6 months, 5 months.
Well, what I'm asking for tonight is the engineering part. So basically that's a per hour cost. So that should be pretty stable. And then again, the second amount that is in the CIP is also a guesstimate, but once we have the engineering part done, the bid would be for exactly what it would be. So if it's under that amount, we're great. If it's over that amount, I would have to come back and, present that and ask for if we would approve a bigger budget. So
Thank you for that clarification. And Secretary Dowling, if my motion could reflect the a motion to approve approval of the engineering costs for the fiber loop, that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
All righty. And we'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye.
And I think that was unanimous, so we will move on. All right, best part, reviewing the process of preparing for the future committee meetings. I know this one, we just wanted to really get on the calendar, so we were able to at least get together, discuss the hot button topics that come out since being sworn in. So I'm gonna really open this up for everyone, trying to find what would be best. Especially, I know we've actually kind of hinted at it in some of the previous discussion of a possible location, as well as kind of a date or typical date time that we're looking to accomplish these committee meetings during.
Well, I'm fine with the time, and also I went mistake. I went down to the administration building, so I mean that's where we meet or have Queenie has met, so I'm fine with that. So
Yeah, and I believe, as I said, definitely want to go forward here. If I guess I'll open to you, Patty, if you know of a particular location that meetings were held previously, or what would be most ideal for our next one.
previously we did use the county administration building, room 120, which is right in off the front lobby. Works good for evening hours too, because we have to leave the front door open and yet we can keep the rest of the building locked off. So it works well for after hours. So I would say room 120. I would think too, being in the evening, we shouldn't have too many conflicts with scheduling it.
I'm sorry, what building was that? I just missed it.
The county administration building, which a lot of people just call CAB, C-A-B, county administration. So if you hear CAB, that's this one.
And that's 112 Otter Ave, correct? Supervisor Nichols.
Thank you. I prefer the standing day every month, like if it's what is today, the fourth Tuesday, because that helps me a lot with my schedule. Although I might prefer like the third week of every month. That would work out really swell, the same week as county board meetings, but I know that could be a lot a hassle for other folks too. So I'm flexible, but I do appreciate the standing day.
Looking at it now, I believe, do we want to have everyone kind of and I know Supervisor Peschel's not here either, so I definitely want to ensure that he's a part of this conversation. Do we want to kind of take a peek at our calendars and maybe communicate in some way via email what our availabilities will kind of look like? And also, I guess the other question I really want to propose here is what kind of frequency we're looking for within this committee. I don't know if it quite would warrant an every month kind of meeting. Patty, if you want to also kind of weigh in on that, typically what you've seen in the past. My inkling of what I would suggest would probably be quarterly, unless there may be particular times where we may need to get something in sooner.
I think that probably would suffice if you guys are okay with that, because we don't have a lot we have to ask for a vote on. You know, it's not often that we have to ask. This happens to be a bigger project. One of the bigger or more common things we have to ask for are multi-year commitments on contracts, and ours are kind of no-brainer ones with, you know, phone service and for example. So they only offer it with a 5-year, you know, AT&T 5-year contract, things like that. So we don't have to ask for a lot. If you want more of a status update, you know, that if that requires a meeting and it's more than quarterly, I'd be willing to do that. But I guess I don't need it monthly probably. And like you said, if I do have something come up, we could call a meeting for that month.
Yeah, that's what I kind of figured what we would have. Supervisor Nichols. Oh, sorry, you just had your hand up. So alrighty, so go ahead, Supervisor
Sorry.
Dowling.
That's okay. I think the third Tuesday of the month is typically for the county board. So that would probably be a conflict, but we could do the second Tuesday, fourth Tuesday, quarterly, if that's okay with everyone. And then we can just kind of earmark it and check with Supervisor Peschel and see if that's okay. Does that sound fair?
Sounds like it works. Alrighty. So yeah, we'll continue that communication via email, and then we'll really hone, once we have that locked in, we can get that on the calendar. So, and as you were saying, kind of earmarking it roughly the quarter mark for us as well. So alrighty.
So
Go ahead.
just to clarify, so we're all on the same page, what months are you looking at then?
So if we're looking at, so we're at the end of May right now. Just pull up the calendar here just so we have a good look here. So I'd say we'd probably want something, probably say something in August.
I was actually sorry to
Go
interrupt
ahead,
you,
Lily.
Mr. Chairman. So Q3, like business standard starts July.
Okay.
And then Q4 is October, just like standard business practice. I don't know if that helps or not.
What is, and I will either call on Patty or John Damel. What is our, do we have a fiscal year, I guess, an end to the fiscal year? Is it December 31st or is it before that?
It's calendar,
Okay.
fiscal year's calendar.
Okay. Then we'll probably just get right on track with that, as you suggested, Supervisor Dowling, and we'll look for July then. And then the following one is October. So we can definitely look at it in that regard.
And-
So, all
and
right,
then-
perfect.
And
So
then January?
and then January, correct?
Yes. So it would be January, April, July, and October.
Thank you.
Okay. Then we will go on to the director's report.
Okay, so typically this is just a status update on what's happening in the department since the last meeting, but that's been a long time. And for all of you being new, it's been forever. So I just have some points to start with this one, I guess. We just finished filling our last vacancy. We had a couple vacancies this year. One in the help desk area and our IS accountant. So those are both brand new. In fact, the help desk person started yesterday, but at the moment we are fully staffed, which is nice. But it definitely takes a long time to onboard someone in our department. So it takes at least 6 months for a decent comfort level. Because we have so many buildings, and then within the buildings we have closets potentially on each floor, or you have to go into the jail and you got to know the procedures how to do that. So there's a lot just to learn where you're going, where everything is, and then let alone all the things we support. So, but fully staffed. I wanted to put out just a little reminder on the phishing training and testing that we do. So this does go out to all users of our network, including the board, because it is required. The biggest factor is our cyber insurance. This is something we have to prove that is being done, or we could be denied some coverage. Other audits also generally bring this up and look for things being done to train. So you guys should get the video recordings that we ask you to watch, and then periodically you get the actual test phishing. For the users on the network utilizing Outlook, we have an add-in with a fish. They can literally click the fish and it automatically goes to our security person. For you guys not utilizing that, you need to email. If you have a suspect email, you need to forward it to our address security@co.winnebago.wi.us. And then you'll be notified if it is the training, you'll be notified immediately, like, thank you, you caught this training test. If it is not, you'll be notified if it's a legit email or a malicious email from security.
I have one quick question for you there on that for the email. Is I noticed in some of the training they have listed out WC security at, and then the Winnebago tag. And full transparency, I did get one of those emails and I sent it on to security, and I did get a reply back already. So is there two emails? Is that the only email that we have?
Security. It's just security at.
Yeah, I just noticed with some of the training material that it did say WC security at instead of security at. So that's just clarifying, because I did have a supervisor contact me over the weekend about a suspicious email and what the email was to send to it. So we did get it to the proper channels.
Okay.
So
my cybersecurity architect just texted me because he's listening on here. And he did say both of those addresses work. So
awesome. Thank you.
okay. Yeah, but again, if you think it's really obvious, or you think it's too obvious, anything that makes it suspicious, just send it on. It's much better than opening anything, for sure. Okay. Also, another big project, just an awareness of what's happening in the department, is a big project happening this year is we are converting, or I should say transitioning, from one cellular provider to FirstNet. So previously, actually, we had two providers. We had Verizon and US Cellular. And the reason we had two was because we definitely had coverage issues for the sheriff's squads on the western side of the county had coverage issues. So we had to add Verizon accounts. We are transitioning to FirstNet, which is a public safety oriented provider and gives us more protection. For example, the best way I can give you an example is, let's say there's a crash on Highway 41 and every person is calling in 911 with their cell phone and it's overloaded. FirstNet has a priority, I guess it's channels or frequencies that we would be pushed to get through. Also, if a tower is literally taken out, they have mobile towers that they promise to bring to our location to assist with additional coverage. So that priority stuff is really important. And because we have a PSAP, Public Safety Answering Point, the 911 center, because we have that, the entire county is able to utilize FirstNet phone provider for FirstNet service for our cell phones. We do a refresh every 2 years anyway. That's kind of the contract. And some of those phones, between the maintenance guys and the patrol guys and even highway guys, probably the phones barely make it the 2 years. So we do this refresh every 2 years anyway. And this is in conjunction with that, we're going to switch provider. So it'll be again a big project, but we would be doing most of it anyway this year. And then lastly, which already came up, we're trying to continue to work towards the goal of getting to Office 365 in the cloud. So that's a huge project. Right now we have everything on premise. It's all under our control. Licensing is all associated that way. So everyone is used to as users. So training will be a big factor. Just the complications of Microsoft licensing. If anyone's interested in seeing what we have to look at to determine what we even need, stop by. You'll be amazed. Everyone usually jokes that you need a PhD in Microsoft to try to buy licensing. So, so that's in progress, and our next renewal would be 2024. If we can stay on track to convert at that time, that would be great. That's our goal.
You said everything was on-prem. Are you going completely to the cloud, or are you going to have any sort of hybrid model when it comes to that?
No, we'll probably have hybrid. At least not one big cutover. It would be a transition. So we would start in a hybrid.
Okay. But then the ultimate goal would be cloud, full cloud.
Yeah, I think what as much as we can, for sure. If we can get the Office suite and email in the cloud, that would be a big thing for space and storage and all of that here, and disaster recovery and mobility and all of that. So
You're speaking my language. That's why I just clarifying, make sure we're on the same page here. So
yeah. So again, those are probably the highlights right now going on, without getting into minutia. So if you have any questions for me, I can try to answer those. All right.
Leave the awkward silence for the no questions. So, alrighty. I believe for our next meeting, based off of what we were kind of discussing tentatively, I think July 12th is our next targeted date for 6 p.m. And I believe that would be in room 120 at the administration building. Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to bring up, I got an email from the WCA, maybe all of us did. Security concerns for the use of Chinese drones, a WCA drone survey. Did anyone get that, and how did they answer it? I'm asking here because it's kind of a technical related question, so yeah.
Absolutely. I also received it. I have yet to fill out the survey. I was actually looking at the bills. I was comparing both the federal bill that was out there as well as the Assembly Bill 907. and seeing kind of the language within that and what it all entailed.
And I'm also reading through it twice. Drones are literally my work. So that one interests me a lot.
Supervisor Nichols.
You just mentioned our next meeting would be July 12th. I thought we were going to circulate an email.
Yeah, and I said very tentatively
Oh,
based off what we had just discussed. That's kind of what it would fall within what we were just kind of discussing. But yes, we will still be circulating an email to confirm that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All righty. Any further comments, questions, concerns?
Is a motion to adjourn in order, Mr. Chairman?
One more question.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Will
all
will you be starting that email chain, Chair?
I will.
Okay.
I will.
I just have to know what to expect and who I'm watching out for. So who I'm
Absolutely.
looking for.
Good question. All right. Like a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
All righty. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Looks like we're adjourned.